My name is Ida. I work in association Walk Together. Nice to meet you. I would like you to formally introduce yourself, and after that we can get to the questions.
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Kristina Kunarcheva. I'm 26. Currently, I'm part of the executive committee of Yad for a Green Future, and also I work as a sustainability specialist in the private sector.
Wonderful, thank you. And how familiar are you with the current national climate policies and strategies?
I'm acquainted with Bulgaria's current national climate policy and strategies, like the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, also the National Environmental Strategies, the National Adaptation Strategy to Climate Change and Action Plan to 2030, also the Integrated National Energy and Climate Plan, and the other documents that are more like plans that aim to implement the strategies, like the priorities of the Ministry of Environmental and Water Priorities and the Circular Economy Transition Strategy to 2027. And these documents actually aim to point the strategic framework of Bulgaria and also for the future for any ministry or institution to know which KPIs to follow and how to implement the plan down.
Okay, great. Thank you for your explanation. In your view specifically, what are the strongest components of current governmental climate change migration policies, and what are some gaps or weaknesses that you identify in existing environmental policies?
Well, yeah, fortunately, I believe that there is no currently like a strong component. Like on paper, you can see that we have strategies. Yes, most of them are aligned with the EU legislation. They come from the EU law. But in reality, I think that implementation is slow and the results are like not real, or we are not there yet.
Okay, I completely understand that. Can you provide me with an example?
Well, some of the weaknesses that I personally think that we can mention now is like the low public awareness, like of climate change and environmental issues, which limits citizen engagement and support for climate action. Also, inconsistent policy and implementation, often driven by short-term political interests rather than long-term sustainability goals. Also, another thing that I'm actually interested in is that topics like climate change, environmental topics, sustainability topics are not in our education system. We don't see them in kindergartens, we don't see them at schools, we don't even see them at universities, or right now we are starting to see them, but it's not something serious, like it's not integrated yet that much. Like personally, I've been familiar with this topic outside of the formal education, like by using non-formal methods. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. Also, another like difficulty that I see is the lack of systemic approach between all the sectors, like the public sector, the business sector, and the non-government sector, which actually is the real problem why the strategies are not followed and why we don't have like real results. And yeah.
I can definitely agree. I can also say from a personal experience that in my school or university, we didn't have any sustainability practices being promoted on one hand, and on the other hand, having the connection between the non governmental sector and the governmental sector, those two institutions effectively working together, this is, I think, a very hard thing to achieve in Bulgaria. So I definitely agree with your opinion. Can you tell me how does your organization contribute to the policy implementation or development?
Yeah, okay. So Yad for a Green Future is a Yad-led public benefit organization. We promote active civic participation with focus on sustainability, social justice, human rights, and democracy. We use the intersectional approach, also the methods of non-formal education, and our aim is to empower young people, to promote the green values among them, and also to create this green movement, and for the future to have people who believe in the green values and advocate for them and insist on more sustainable future.
That those are some really great goals. But what are some challenges that your organization might face in collaborating with specifically governmental bodies?
Yeah, a major challenge that we discussed with our members and also between us is the lack of political representation, and also like that young people don't have a voice in the parliament or anywhere. Like they're not being taken seriously. Let's say from what I see right now, we live like in a bubble, in the green bubble, and when someone says something is green, usually it's considered something weird and not like uh, that's what I see from people who I communicate. Like it's a small bubble. People are confusing if like green means only environmental, but it's not like that. Like green means also social and more like left kind of thinking. But yeah, I think that's the challenges that we face now, and because in our bubble we understand each other, we know what we believe, we know what we follow, we know how we do it, but it's hard to step out of this bubble, go to let's say to I don't know some other people that are not thinking green and just tell them you should believe in this because it's important, but they're more like but why I don't see it like, and I think that's the challenge now to step out of that bubble and really advocate for our values, and also but that also comes with the need for young people to be taken more seriously in a political level and in business level even, and so on.
I also think that that is, I think, maybe one of the biggest challenges when concerning working with the governmental bodies, because some of the people who currently work in the government, they also don't advocate for these practices. So it would be very difficult to translate our reasoning and our beliefs to someone who has a completely different state of mind, let's say. And I think that there the translation kind of gets lost sometimes. And in your opinion, how can public-private partnerships help bridge existing policy gaps?
Well, right now, like when I'm in the non-government organization, because before that I was mainly coming from the corporate world, from the private world, and now like I have a more view of the how things are in the non-government sector, like in our organization, and I see the problem with funding and resources, and that sometimes that can be a problem to develop our strategies, our like let's say to find funding, I can say, and this kind of resources that we need to build our capacity. And also, I think here is the main role of the business. They have the potential to provide funding, expertise, to make a collaboration and to like not only funding, I mean one-time donation or anything, but long-term strategies to make a how to say collaboration and for them to believe in us and to somehow work together and be together, because right now I think the business only thinks about their profits and so on. Like some of them like start to think more like more sustainable, like with the new ESG standards and everything. But I think right now in Bulgaria it's not happening that much. The non-government sector is separate from that, and I think the business needs to collaborate more with them, because I think we can learn from each other like really well. We have the people, we have the young people, let's say, and they have the money, they have the resources and everything. So I think that's how a good private private non-geo cooperation can happen.
Okay, okay, great. That does make a lot of sense. What would be your top three policy recommendations for improving specifically governmental climate action, not relating to our work as NGOs, but specifically to governments?
Well, my favorite topic about the education, I think the whole education should be like, I don't know, changed. And I think we need more topics about sustainability, starting at least at first grade, not just talking about waste management and taking care about the environment, but also creating this kind of thinking for people to think through the green values, to think through the more sustainable way, to think about changing this mindset to always grow, like the capitalism way of thinking. And I think that starts at school or at least at family. But let's say this, like if I had that power, I would do that.
Of course.
Because I think education has the power to do the change, and that will be one thing that I would do to create more subjects at school that have these topics and explain them in a normal way, in a way that people want to learn about them and develop in the future, like finding their own space in these topics.
What about promoting civic engagement? Would you think that this is a good suggestion?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a good suggestion, and I think uh, starting with education and anything else, this will provide the basic part of education, and then if people know that this exists, because from my experience, I think that, let's say, it's not the problem that people don't want to be sustainable or don't want to be green. They just don't know about that information, or they just don't believe it, or the information is not like available right now. And people are like, is this true? Is this some kind of propaganda or anything else? So I think when we have like transparency in education, explaining stuff and anything, that will build the capacity in the civic engagement, and from there people will know how to advocate for it and so on.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I also think that having, from a government perspective, having uh, more specific, let's say, regulations regarding green practices in general, I think that that would be very useful, because right now we don't really have this in a national level, this way of thinking. And I think that if for instance, everywhere you go, not just in the city center, but if everywhere you go there are um, baskets for recycling, or if every month in one random city there is a festival regarding green practices, or if if these things happen in a national scale with government help, then I think that that would be uh, an extra, which is important to the main thing, which is, like you said, education.
Yeah, of course. The government has this power to make the rules, like regulations and anything, and then the business has its other role to promote them and to invest in them, and then the society is the one who can benefit from it. But also, as I said. One more, I think now with the green topics, it's more important. Like, I don't think it's happening in the business sector, neither in the public sector. So I really believe the non-government sector, our organizations and other, like, not only youth organization but mainly has this power to advocate for these topics.
Yeah.
Because the change should start from us and in our communities and everywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, let's move to more personal insights. What specific experiences or events motivated your involvement in this topic in general?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Like, when I was at university, was the first time I was like, um, I met with these people, like people who were explaining what sustainable development is, and I was like, okay, that sounds cool, but what can I do? What can I do in my everyday life to make a change? Because like, my first experience was in business, like with all these ESG kind of corporate reporting
Mm-hmm.
standards and everything that the business should do. And I was like, okay, that's fine, but how can I do that in my daily life? How can I make a change? And that's why now I'm in the non-government sector, trying to find answers. But yeah, I think the change starts with us, and we should try at least 1% every day to make a change and to inform ourselves and to know how to do it. So that was my motivation to get involved.
I think that's very inspiring, because most people don't really tend to think about um, if you have this very big governmental or corporate strategy, and a lot of people think that, oh, it's so big, it involves so much money and so much effort, I would never be able to accommodate something like that in my own private life. Whereas, in fact, if you do it as a single simple person, it's way easier. You don't need like the billions of or millions of euros that they invested in it. You don't need such specific structure because you aren't working with hundreds or thousands of people. You're working with you specifically, and it's actually way easier. So I think that it's a very interesting and a very cool way that you uh, got around to working in this topic specifically in an NGO, because I think it's very rare that people can make this connection between the two. I have another question relating to your organization. What knowledge or tools do you think would help you to be more effective in policy engagement?
Well, yeah, right now we are trying to make these kind of safe spaces or community spaces where people can talk about these topics, communicate with each other, learn from each other, because that's very interesting. Like at schools or even university, we're used to a teacher or a professor sitting in front of us, like he's the main one who like is the source of knowledge. And right now in our spaces, we see that we can learn from each other. You don't need like that much expertise, you just need people. And sometimes when you discuss with people like in the non-formal way of education, you can learn a lot, like for everything, because sometimes you don't need a perfect book or the perfect expertise. You just need to sit and talk like in a normal simple way with simple words and anything. And I think we don't need to complicate stuff. They're already complicated enough, and that's why I actually believe we are doing that as an NGO and anything.
Okay.
So
Okay. And going back to what you said specifically about youth, and especially given those community spaces that you're building for youth as well, do you think that youth in general should play a role in climate policy development? And if yes, how would you imagine that happening in a scenario relating to Bulgaria?
yeah, well, I really believe in young people in Bulgaria right now. We need those people. We need that. We see that like there is a lack of green knowledge and everything. And I believe that the young people are key to promoting these green values, and also the Gen Z. Like I think they have the power to do that. And I believe in them. Like everything starts from small societies, from families, from your friends, then communities. And I believe that can happen. Like young people can bring fresh ideas, like anything. And I think we can do that.
I agree. I agree with the fact that we should have a say in the policies, and I think I agree with the fact that because young people have um, a different view of life and a different way of seeing things, I think that that might be very valuable in a topic which is so um, detailedly discussed. So I think that people have a tendency to hyper fixate on things, and that's exactly like you said. Sometimes it's overcomplicated, and it doesn't need to be that complicated, and it's a bunch of simple solutions that if they work together they make the magic happen. So I definitely agree with that. I would like to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to have this interview. I really hope that in the future we will be able to talk again. And
Yeah, thank you so much. It was nice meeting you as well.